Hello, sir. Am I audible to you?
Yes, yes, sure.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So I think we are fine to go now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay. So a very good noon to all our panelists, participants, and all our attendees. Hope you all are doing well and very well doing fine. Thank you for all joining us today with the first webinar. Lawyergenics in association with Sushanth IT Law Associates Hyderabad is presenting a webinar on cyber laws, cyber forensic and cyber securities. Now, before we move further, we have few in-house rules. All the participants are requested to kindly stay on mute and turn off their videos. If you have anything to deliver to our moderator or our panelist, kindly make use of the chat box. Thirdly, at the end of the session, we'll be having a Q&A session wherein the floor will be open for the questions and our panelists will be more than happy to answer all your questions. And last, it's my humble request to all the participants to kindly not make misuse of the chat box and kindly maintain the dignity of the webinar. Now, before we move further, Lawyergenics is a startup organization. It's an organization which is run by a handful of law students from varied parts of India, which aims at providing quality and legal awareness through blog articles, research paper, and our platform is open to all our law students who wish to contribute with us. Now, moving to our guest for the day, today we have with us Advocate Sai Sushanth. Sir is a cyber law expert, legal techno consultant. Also, Sir is the CEO of Sushanth IT Law Associate, which is a cyber law consulting firm in Hyderabad. Apart from this, Sir is academician, legal mentor, corporate trainer, avid speaker, and also Sir has presented himself as a panel. Hello, hello,
Yes, Karthik, you're audible.
hello, Sir. Is it audible?
Yeah, yeah.
Hello, Sir.
Yeah, yeah. Please go ahead. I mean, you're audible.
Hello, Sir. Is it audible to you?
Yeah, yeah. Very much audible, Karthik. Please go ahead.
Hello, Sir.
Yes, Karthik. You're audible. Please go ahead.
Yeah, we are very sorry for the delay. So as I was speaking, okay, Sir is a legal techno expert. Also, Sir owns few research paper in his name. Now, today, Sir will be delivering few important points on cyber laws. Now, firstly, we need to understand why cyber law is important. As we all know that today is a COVID time and everyone is stuck in their homes. So now the thing is, that as an individual, it's important for us to know why cyber law and cyber security is important, not as a member of legal fraternity, but as a layman, because right now we are in our home testing our hands on technology. So it becomes very important for us to know what are the ups and downs and the positive and negatives of the cyber law and how to deal with such situation. So before taking further time, I would directly hand over to Sir. Sir, the floor is yours. You can now address our participants. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karthik. A very good noon to all of you present in this webinar. It's um, it's a different time altogether, and then with while all of us are fighting COVID-19 on one hand, I think it's
Hello, Sir.
a lot of knowledge sharing happening across the internet. Which specifically that thanks that the technology has given us such a kind of facilitation to improve and then do a lot of other activities while all of us are busy fighting COVID-19. So, with this positive note, I thought of just going forward. Before I get on to my PPT, I think I just want to clarify a few things at the initial front itself. I would be actually trying to talk about the emerging trends and also some kinds of recent incidents that have been happening across the globe, and then talk of why cyber law is important to us and how does it affect us specifically from a layman's perspective, as also from a law student's and a lawyer's perspective, and then going through the different provisions of the Indian cyber law, and also will be taking you to some of the case studies, and then talking about the data protection and the legal compliance aspects, and some cyber security mechanisms that we need to adopt as netizens and people who are using the computer, mobile phone, and the internet. I think that being so, the whole intention is to just bring about an awareness. Well, I don't wish to scare you away with regard to the different kinds of crimes and then insecurities that are happening, but I wish to tell you that if we do not understand that what is going around in the world today, I think as a lawyer, as a law students, would not be at all able to really do a good practice. Not just cyber law, but any field of law, because law is ultimately nothing but the felt need of the society. So when the law develops, I mean, the need of the society develops, the law also develops. So that's the whole just behind any particular law. So that being so, I think we'll just like to start off. If you can just connect my presentation, that will be great. In the meantime, I just thought of telling you two things. Okay, let's start. The moment you're using a computer, mobile phone, and the internet, lo and behold, that there is cyber law that is now going to be made applicable. Why? You don't need to be a lawyer to know that. But however, the moment you're making use of computers, computer systems, computer networks, computer resources, communication devices, as also data or information in the electronic format, you'll have to now tighten your belts. Why? Because there is a law that is now going to be made applicable. This is nothing but the cyber law. It's that's why I phrased it as the interface of law and technology. Why? Because it's the law that is completely technology dependent. Unlike the other laws, we have in India an act called Indian Telegraph Act, which came up in the year 1885, and then after 115 years, you've seen that there is a new legislation, which is the Information Technology Act 2000, which is the Indian cyber law. And then it's a totally different legislation compared to others, because it's one of the broadest legislations. And I will say, if you were to look at three major laws passed by independent India from 1947, I would say this is thoroughly one of them. First being the Indian Constitution, second being the Indian Penal Code, and third being the Indian Information Technology Act 2000. And barely it's a 20-year-old law, and I call this as a new generation law. And before we get going, I'd like to tell you that this is a technology dependent law, and then it's going to be a completely different law altogether, unlike the others. Of course, in a nutshell, I can tell you that it's a combination of all the different laws altogether, whether it's civil, criminal, evidence, or the banking, or any other laws per se. But if you basically add E to any particular law, I think that's nothing but cyber law. So that's something I thought of just sharing with you before I get going. Could you go to the next slide, please? I have some funny images to just to bring about some entertainment, because it's the peak Sunday afternoon, and then I thought these things could be making the presentation more interesting. This is the usual response I get when I'm taking a session. So though I'm not able to see you on the video, I'm sure that 99% of the faces are like this. More specifically, when you see that somebody who's into the cyber law is going to address you. Yes, because not many students feel that cyber law is something which is very, very difficult, and that's not completely their cup of tea. But shall I say, I want to take out that kind of a misconception, and I can tell you that there is immense scope given the present COVID situation. Next slide, please. So to start off, I'll tell that all of us are digital slaves. Why? Because when you look at the regular concept of slavery, what happens in the concept of slavery? Usually slaves work, and it is the master who gets the benefit. So likewise, shall I say, each one of us who are on the social media, or who are using these over-the-top applications like WhatsApp, are actually building and creating a lot of content. And this content is created by n number of users putting in a lot of hard effort, and ultimately who's getting the benefit? It is the social media networks, as also these over the top applications who are getting benefit out of the content. So therefore I will say that in that context we are all digital slaves. Next slide, please. So right to privacy, shall I say, now is the fundamental right. Thanks to the Supreme Court's recent judgment, now privacy is going to play a very, very important role, since it's not just the corporate privacy, but it's also the personal privacy that's going to be playing a very, very important role in the present environment. I know the photograph that you're able to see on the slide is very funny, but shall I tell you that it's a very basic phenomena that we all have to understand, that privacy is now the new toast of the times, shall I say, because with it becoming the new constitutional right, I think there is going to be a lot work for privacy lawyers. Next slide, please. This news, I'm sure most of us have gone through this news. The Indian government decided to ban 59 Chinese mobile applications. Well, on what basis did they do that? Thanks to the Information Technology Act, specifically Section 69, which was made use of, wherein the government had been given unlimited power to block, to disable public access to any kinds of applications in case it feels that there is a threat to the sovereignty, integrity, and as also the security of the country. That being so, the government has exercised this particular power, and it has gone ahead and blocked, say, 59 mobile applications. Not just that, the matter doesn't end there. The Indian government has also gone ahead and informed the court that to block any of these Chinese applications from challenging the order. That being so, what does it mean? It means that in case any of these particular applications want to approach the court and then challenge the order, the court was informed by the government not to do so, so as to ensure that there is no harm to the sovereignty, integrity, and the security of the nation as such. So that being so, shall I say, TikTok, which made the entire India wake up to a different paradigm altogether, has now been banned. A lot of times I've been seeing that a lot of TikTok videos were made, and then some were, of course, very, very silly videos. And I'll tell you one case that has come to me. It's a very, very different kind of a case that has come to me before TikTok was banned. Actually, there was one particular employee who, in a particular organization, who was into marketing. So you all know that marketing people have the habit of creating new marketing strategies, because the company marketing activities are to be managed by these guys. Okay, this guy started doing a lot of new marketing strategies, and thereby he thought, instead of just confining to one particular company, let me make my idea global. So he made use of TikTok. He wanted to become a TikTok star, and then he started using the marketing strategy, and then he made a TikTok video. Okay, now he did not use the name of the company. Okay, thanks to the confidentiality and things like that. So the company said, okay, you can go ahead and exercise your right of putting that. Okay, no issues. But lo and behold, what has happened? The competitor of this company, where this person was employed, has taken the video of this particular employee, and then they have used the video to promote the competitor's products. Now you see, when we look at the terms and conditions of TikTok, it's very clear that TikTok has the right to edit, crop, modify, monetize any of the videos. So unfortunately, most of us, we do not look at the terms and conditions, and we start actually downloading these applications without even understanding what are the kinds of effects these kinds of applications have on our data, on our videos, as also on our privacy. Now that being so, for a simple exercise of a TikTok video, the guy lost out his job. Why? Because the competitor had used this particular video to promote their products. As a result, he lost out his job. So one TikTok video had actually created a complete change in the employee's life. So with that being the paradigm altogether, I wish to tell you that yes, there is a lot of there are a lot of things happening across the globe, and specifically, shall I tell you that a lot of times most of us feel that the internet is a holy paradigm, but shall I tell you that it's completely a mistaken notion. Why? Because internet as a paradigm never sleeps. Internet as a phenomenon never forgets. I think if you're basically able to understand these two, I think we can take more intelligent decisions, shall I say, because a lot of cognitive and cogent actions are taking place across the internet. Next slide, please. Truecaller, shall I say, has been there from a very, very long time, and it's the default mode for a lot of smartphone callers. Why? They make use of this application and then they start going ahead without even understanding the fact that when you look at the terms and conditions, it's very clear that whatever entries have been saved, there is no change in the entries, and more specifically, it sends all the data to Scandinavia, which is where the actual corporate office of Truecaller is. So that being so, I think I was surprised the other day. I was sitting with one of my friends, and then we were chatting. Just this was prior to COVID, and when the year started, and then in a coffee shop, and then he was trying to do an online transaction. So when he was looking out for an OTP, I was surprised to see that the OTP reflected not in the SMS but in the Truecaller. Now look, uh, how does it have a relationship? OTP and Truecaller, they're entirely different paradigm. Nobody even thinks that the Truecaller is capable of reading your messages, specifically your OTPs as well. So that being so, I think it's going to be a completely different paradigm. I think all of us need to wake up from deep slumber that all these applications are very secured. Next slide, please. When you're uploading photographs through your mobile phones, I think it's time to think, time to be aware that there's a lot of different aspect that needs to be looked in. Why? Because when you're looking at uploading your photograph using your mobile phone, any photograph that is uploaded using the mobile phone, I think we can try to exactly locate the location by using the geographical locators, and exact latitude and longitude of that particular location can be traced. So what does that mean? It means that apart from doing sanitization to your hands as well as being yourself hygiene during this COVID-19 period, we all need to be understanding the fact that your pictures also need to be sanitized. There are also some sanitization that can be done to your pictures. Why? Because your pictures carry a lot of metadata, and in case this metadata is exposed to the world, I think it opens up a Pandora's box of cyber and privacy related issues. That being so, shall I say, it's not enough that you sanitize your hands, but your pictures also require sanitization. Not just that, shall I say, apart from being maintaining personal hygiene, it's also adequately important that we maintain cyber hygiene. I think cyber hygiene has to be the only way that you need to adopt during this period of COVID-19. Next slide, please. Now, WhatsApp, shall I say, has become the default calling application in India. Why? I don't think any one of you who are attending this webinar are without a WhatsApp account. Are you? I'm sure that there's nobody here. Now, when you look at terms and conditions of WhatsApp, it's very clear. Whatever you share on WhatsApp, audio, video, image, or text, that becomes information in the public domain. Once it becomes information in the public domain, that's the end of privacy, and that's the end of you actually trying to fight a legal battle for any kinds of misutilization. That being so, there is absolutely no privacy with regard to any WhatsApp conversations. So if you are trying to share up anything relating to confidentiality or sensitive and personal information, think twice. Not just that, without realizing this, most of us upload a lot of important information, photographs, credit card and banking details, and things like that, passwords and the like over WhatsApp. So this is a very, very important thing that I would like to share during this webinar. Next slide, please. Now, this organization called India Bull had suffered a ransomware attack recently. Now, ransomware, shall I say, is the big time hero during this period of COVID-19. A lot of companies are actually under the attack of ransomware. Now, what do you mean by ransomware? The answer is there in the term itself. Now, we have all been aware that if you look at the movies or the real life instances, we are all aware that a lot of kidnaps are happening. People actually kidnap somebody, they demand a ransom, and then they release the victim. That being so, just imagine what happens to your device. Okay, you're sleeping, and one fine day, one fine morning when you wake up, you realize that your entire device gets a message. The message saying that, hey, look, I've actually encrypted all the contents of your device, and you need to pay this much of money as a ransom to me. Only which only then I would actually share the actual version of the same. So that being so, most of us are in a state of shock and panic. Why? Because we lost out the complete control of the device. And not just that, in some cases, they also send you screenshots of the kinds of data that actually has been encrypted by them. So this is a new kind of cyber crime, shall I say, and it's the new jewel in the crown, especially during this time of COVID-19. It's not just India Bulls alone. Honda company and the IT services giant Cognizant also was under the ransomware attack. Now, this is a very, very different kind of an attack, like I told you. And most probably, you would be asked to pay in cryptocurrency, more specifically Bitcoins. So that being so, I think we'll have to make ourselves alive to the fact that it's not just going to be the corporates or the corporate systems or the corporate networks that are under ransomware attacks, but any of us devices, whether it's laptops, whether it's iPads, whether it's your mobile phones or the tablets and the like. I think anything can be prone to ransomware attack. One of the common ways of this attack is when you try to download applications from unauthorized sources or which compromise your security of your mobile or device. That also is one of the entry points, shall I say, to these ransomware attacks. Not just that, some of the gaming applications that are unauthorized also bring in this ransomware attack, because backgroundly these kinds of applications bring down the security of your mobile phone and device, exposing your device to the said ransomware attack. Next slide, please. Now, recently, when you look at this slide, there's a cyber attack on NHAI, National Highway Authority of India, email server. Of course, there's reported no data loss. However, these are just initial early growing times. We do not have any idea because a lot of information relating to the traffic and as also the vehicles are now being uploaded on NHAI's email servers. Next slide, please. Now, the Statue of Unity, which is one of the most prestigious things in India, has also been now sold across online, wherein with a tagline stating that this particular Statue of Unity is now being sold, offered for sale for $4 billion, and under the garb of saying the proceeds of this would be sent to the state government of Gujarat to to actually battle COVID-19. Wow, look at this. Cyber criminals are being very, very opportunistic, and in these times of COVID-19, they're actually trying to encash upon these kinds of things, wherein they're using the COVID-19 as a tool and then committing a lot of crimes. Of course, we do not have any idea about the cyber criminal, and then the identity is still unknown. Next slide, please. Internet of Things, shall I say, is a different ball game altogether. Why? When you look at Internet of Things, I'm very clear. Any device that is capable of getting connected to the internet, it becomes an internet IoT device, whether it's your smart TV or whether it's your Amazon Alexa, Google Home, or any of your smart home automators or and the like. Yes, all these are IoT devices. And when you look at this, it's very, very clear that I got this beautiful case of one of the corporate employees. Okay, all of us today make use of mobile phones, smartphones, as also some of us make use of these IoT devices like Amazon Alexa, as also Google Homes of the world. So there was this employee who was actually attending to his online meeting, and then he had his Amazon Alexa in the same room. Well, the Amazon Alexa heard the conversation that the employee had with his company over the online meeting, and then it interpreted, and next day he received a parcel from a particular e-commerce store. Why? And he was surprised to note. So what has happened? The device has interpreted the conversation and thought that this could be the real necessity, and then placed an order. And that being so, the entire product was actually delivered at the employee's house. So that being so, IoT devices absolutely evaporate the concept of privacy here. Not just that, in one of the cases in the Western countries, IoT device was actually used as legal evidence. Now, everything and anything that is in digital format is now digital evidence, and thanks to the Information Technology Act, it has made up an amendment in the Indian Evidence Act 2, wherein electronic evidence is now legally admissible under Section 65, specifically under the Indian Evidence Act. Now, recently, the Supreme Court has also given some clarity with regard to the admissibility of the electronic evidence. We had some confusion, and that was cleared. Now, the Supreme Court, in its latest ruling, Arjun Pandit Rao case, clearly told that in case you want to produce any record from the electronic evidence, okay, any of these records, whether it's audio, video, image, or text from these devices, you can place that, okay, but provided you have a certificate in place. In case you're producing a copy, you require a certificate. In case you're able to produce the device as such, then you don't require a certificate. This was one of the latest judgments, shall I say, being passed on electronic evidence. We'll have a discussion on that later. But just to tell you that, yes, in one of the cases, IoT was actually used as an evidence. There were two friends who were living together, and it so happened that one of the friends actually killed the other, but fabricated that as a suicide. Now, that being so, the police have come, they started doing investigation, finally found that there was an IoT device lying there, and then they confiscated that, and then they started doing forensics on it. To also talk about forensics, I'll also discuss what's forensics before you get, as you go forward. Just to tell you that the forensic analysis revealed that there was some kinds of planning of the murder which this guy has done, and that was actually recorded on this IoT device. Now, just try doing that. If you're all having mobile phones, just try talking about something, just putting your mobile phone or device near, and then after a few minutes, just open up your browsers. You'll be surprised to see that whatever you've spoken will now be reflected. So this is the kind, because all these devices have been fed with inbuilt microphones, shall I say, to record all these kinds of transactions. Next slide, please. Now, this was another interesting case in Malaysia, wherein, as you all know, we all have smart gadgets. We're all smart. So a couple made use of their smart TV in the bedroom. Lo and behold, there was a hack of this particular camera, and somebody tried to record all the video that was happening in and around their bedroom and started putting that on YouTube. So look at the way how IoT devices could also be posing a variety of security and privacy issues. So it is always advisable that in case you're using smart TVs, do not put them on your bedroom. Next slide, please. Now, California has gone ahead further, and it has come up with something called the IoT cybersecurity law. What does it say? It says that if I'm an IoT device manufacturer, I need to have reasonable security practices and procedures while I'm actually trying to sell the device. So that being so, I think a lot of groundwork is happening on the IoT as a separate legal discipline. So when you look at cyber laws and the scope of it, IoT as a separate discipline is also going to be a very, very new area that a lot of young lawyers can actually try to adopt as you go forward. Next slide, please. Now, the education during the COVID times also started going online. There are lots of organizations and educational institutions that are making use of online classes. That being so, I think this particular school in Kerala has gone ahead and made use of a new technology called augmented reality to conduct classes. Wow. On one hand, while we're talking about lots of crimes and the insecurities happening, look at the positive connotation that's happening across. Now, these kinds of technologies are now being used in a positive way. So, shall I say, this brings in a lot of practical, what do you say, understanding of the subject, specifically during this period of online classes. Next slide, please. Well, the man in the photograph, I know he's known for his controversies, but this time for a totally different ball game altogether. Blockchain, shall I say, has now started receiving a lot of attention, specifically during this period of COVID-19, with a company called Ally, which has come up with India's first blockchain-based theater at home platform. What does it do? It tries to create some sort of, shall I say, a platform wherein it's going to connect viewers as also the broadcasters, making use of a blockchain-based platform where things are relatively secured. So that being so, one of the first ventures of using blockchain in the movie industries is now the Alive blockchain platform. Now, blockchain, in a nutshell, shall I say, tell you, it's nothing but it's just like this webinar. You know what happens in this webinar? All of you who are attendees are able to clearly see the screen, right? So you're all connected. How? Through this particular platform. So imagine that this is a blockchain platform. Each and every user is a block, and each and every comment that we are receiving is nothing but the data on the block. And anything that you're able to see in the screen is visible to all of you, right? So therefore there is transparency absolutely involved. So this is the entire concept of, and date and time is also there. You know the date, you know the time, and you're able to also see an icon called live that's going across. So that being so, this is something that blockchain offers. It's a distributed ledger. It works on a concept of distributed ledger, and then it works on a network particularly, and every transaction that takes place on the network is absolutely transparent with time stamped, and all of them getting connected to something called cryptography. I'll also touch on cryptography as you go forward, but just to tell you that blockchain as a technology is a very interesting technology. Now we also started seeing that the Andhra Pradesh government has started using blockchain for actually trying to use it for land records. So when you look at land records specifically, shall I say, if you are all studying the land laws, I'm sure you must be aware regarding title and ownership of the property. So how do you establish that the property has a clear title? One of the best methods is to make use of blockchain. Why? Because once you start putting up data on the block, the data on the block cannot be erased, and if there is any modification, the new block is added. So therefore, you know the date and timestamp. So thereby, from the first owner till the last owner, you can just record all these transactions using a blockchain, and it's more relatively safer. I think it can bring down the kinds of land litigations happening with regard to the titles and ownership. Next slide, please. Now, artificial intelligence has been the new toast of the times, and everybody, be it any kinds of business, is now trying to leverage the concept of artificial intelligence. Now, artificial intelligence is also trying to be explored in judiciary. The other day, I was actually trying to research on artificial intelligence in judiciary and found that there are lots of AI tools which have started to evolve, specifically in the US, wherein this particular tool, the moment you start uploading the judgments of a particular bench, you as many judgments as possible, if you start uploading, and then if you upload the facts of your case, it is likely to predict the judgment. Why? Because it's running on artificial intelligence. So ultimately, what is artificial intelligence? It's nothing but it runs on something called AI programs through machine learning, which is a clear application, and it runs only on data. Well, on one hand, we are trying to say that we're using AI. On the other hand, we are trying to say this AI is going to bring down the employment. But according to me, it's shall I say, it's a completely different ball game altogether. With the advent of AI, I think it's going to create a large number of job opportunities. Specifically, AI law is now going to be seeing a different turn altogether, and it's going to be now the flavor of the new times as you go forward. Why? Because with increased use of artificial intelligence in all walks of life, I think it's going to be opening up a Pandora's box of legal litigation, legal policy, regulatory frameworks. And that being so, as I'm talking to you this afternoon, there is no dedicated AI law in the country. However, we are also trying to see that the Information Technology Act is also gone ahead and addressed some of the parameters of AI, but it's going to be increasingly a very, very interesting phase with AI now being the new toast of the times, and AI law is going to be the flavor of the new times in the legal domain as you go forward. Apart from that, facial recognition is now being increasingly used by lots of organizations as a method for actually doing a variety of activities, including recording of the attendance of the employees. Facial recognition and legal issues are also receiving a lot of center stage attention, shall I say, with everybody trying to make use of facial recognition. The face is now the new passport of the world, and there are lots of legalities, whether it's security, privacy, data protection, or what do you say, cyber security, cyber law. There is a variety of issues that are likely to emerge as you go forward with regard to facial recognition. So AI and facial recognition can be a very good combination for the present young generation lawyers to go forward, because it's going to bring in a variety of legal issues that are not much spoken of in the today's world. Next slide, please. Now, AI is also, on the other hand, being used by cyber criminals. Now, cyber crimes are now being targeted using AI. Artificial intelligence is enabling cybercrime as a service. Now, earlier we thought that only cybercrimes could be done by people who know something relating to hacking and things like that. But shall I say, that's a big, big misconception. Now, thanks to the advent of AI, used in a negative way, it's now going to be disastrous, shall I say. Next slide, please. It's the fake all around. Fake apps, fake mobile recharges, fake vaccines, fake charities, fake Netflix subscriptions, fake testing kits, and fake products. So the entire world is seeing a different fake altogether. I would not have any idea which is fake or genuine. And as I'm talking to you this afternoon, India does not have in place adequate measures for dealing with fake news. That being so, I can tell you that okay, thanks to the Information Technology Act, which has made amendments in various laws. IPC is also one of them. But I can primarily tell you that in case somebody tries to share a fake news, transmit a fake news, or actually like a fake news, you could be charged under Section 468, which is relating to forgery of any electronic evidence, or for forgery of any particular electronic record. And thanks to that, I think if we all become global authors, global transmitters, and go global publishers of news, specifically with applications like WhatsApp and the social media. So think twice before you do that, because you do that, you would also face criminal charges. Next slide, please. Cybersecurity law is also emerging as a new key legal discipline. Now, all along, we just thought that cybersecurity is only confined to technical aspects. But shall I say, it's a very, very big misconception. Why? Cybersecurity as a law brings in a variety of different things on the table, whether be it cyber security compliance, the roles, responsibilities, obligations on the various stakeholders, and things like that. And a lot of countries, China has now a dedicated cybersecurity law. Vietnam also is now trying to have a cybersecurity law, and India also is now, though it does not have any dedicated cybersecurity law. But when you look at the Information Technology Act, which was amended in the year 2008, we've gone one step forward, and then we have started to define something called cybersecurity. When you look at section 2, specifically NB, we've gone ahead and defined cybersecurity. So cybersecurity, we, in short, shall I say, is not just relating to the data security or the information security in a device, but it's also talking about the physical security of a device. So this is the provision that we have relating to cybersecurity. I think there's a long haul forward with regard to cybersecurity being a big timer, and specifically during this COVID times. I think it's going to assume very, very important legal discipline as you go forward, no matter be your profession, or no matter be your business. I think cybersecurity law would be the new flavor of the local times. Next slide, please. Quantum computing has already arrived. Now we also started getting 50 qubit, 20 qubit computers, quantum computers that are capable to break any algorithm and passwords within a couple of hours. I think the legalities surrounding quantum computing also need to be addressed in a good way as you go forward. So quantum computing also has started receiving good amount of traction nowadays. Next slide, please. Now, quantum computers the other day was also being looked at to help people respond to coronavirus. I think this is also one area that people are trying to leverage. And then let's see, it's going to open up a different box of legal and security issues. Next slide, please. Wearable devices are now being the new flavor of the times, thanks to the technology that is there. Any wearable device that we use, whether it's your smartwatch, whether you're using a Fitbit or and the like, I think It's going to bring in a huge amount of cyber legal, ethical, and security issues. More specifically, shall I say, any data that you store across the wearable device, have you ever looked at terms and conditions? Have you ever looked at how the data is shared, to whom all is it shared, how was it protected, and things like that? That being so, I think in the light of medical data, it's going to be turning out to be very, very critical, because we do not have any idea, and we could be targeted with a lot of these information shared across the globe in a different paradigm altogether. Next slide, please. Now, I want to tell you an interesting case that happened on Twitter a long time back. I don't know whether you're aware of this or not. It's called the Twitter sailor case. So, shall I tell you that in one particular jurisdiction, there was a particular sailor, and then he had a daughter. So, what happened in this case? The sailor actually came up and then he was working in a defense and an army organization, and then he came to his family to visit them, and then he was discussing a lot of things with his daughter. So he told his particular daughter that I'm going to this particular place. Do you want anything from that particular place? So the daughter did nothing, but just posted the information that any suggestions from inviting suggestions from her friends that, hey, look, my dad is actually traveling to this particular place. Now, anything that is good there, please kindly tweet. For this particular tweet, the sailor not just lost out his job, but also started facing legal penalties and punishments for this particular tweet. Why? Because he was working in a defense and army organization, and it was a top secret not to disclose any of the information relating to his trip. And then that was thanks to this tweet that has been exposed to the entire world. That being so, shall I tell you, be cautious when you use Twitter or any social media for that matter. And then once specifically you're handling and dealing with any of the sensitive personal data or information, I think it's going to be a good option that we exercise due diligence. Next slide, please. Now, this is the new paradigm, shall I say, a personal data leak on dark web. Dark web, shall I say, is going to be turning as is the new tip of the iceberg, and then it's now increasingly being looked at various cyber criminals for legitimate and illegitimate activities. And look at this: a personal data of 2.9 crores Indians was leaked, and that was leaked for free. So look at the way in which your information is sold across the internet. Next slide, please. Now, when you look at the statistics, yes, during this period of lockdown, there's a multi-fold increase in the cyber crimes, thanks to everybody making use of the internet during the COVID times. Next slide, please. Fearware, shall I say, is also one of the new kinds of cyber crimes that is emerging, where people are making use of your fear to exploit and do all sorts of activities. Next slide, please. Voice locker case, which has created ruckus, shall I say, in the social media. Specifically, this has brought him a variety of cyber legal issues. So, a lot of times, shall I say, these kinds of identity related thefts, cheating by impersonation, are happening across the different domains of social media. I think all of us need to be alive to this fact. Next slide, please. In Chennai, the police have booked a photographer for a video tweet on the health secretary. So, therefore, during this time of COVID-19, any posts on social media that you're making against the government, criticizing the government, or putting up your opinions is going to open up a Pandora's box of legal exposures. In Andhra Pradesh, we're also seeing that one of the netizen was a 60 plus old lady who tried to voice her opinion on one of the aspects relating to the government. I think she also was booked under the different sections of IT Act as also under IPC for this particular activity of, shall I say, cybercrime. So the state governments have started assuming greater significance and hold on the netizens, specifically during this period of COVID-19. I think it's going to bring in a variety of issues on your civil rights and constitutional liberties. Next slide, please. The Delhi police also started issuing advisory against cybercrime, specifically relating to the fake medicine, medical kits, fake medical products, and things like that. Also, we see that a lot of times masks, sanitizers, and the like have been sold at a flat price. I had a client of mine who actually went ahead and started purchasing these online from an unknown website because they started offering this at a flat price. So thereby, since they required a bulk quantity, they thought this is going to be economically good since all of them are facing cash crunch. So they went on, they ordered through this particular website, and lo and behold, the moment they ordered and then finished the transaction, made the payment, after that, they did not get any communication. It's been 40 days till today, and then no information from them. And when you look at the website is not existing, no information available anywhere across the internet relating to this website. So this is the way in which people are trying to leverage technologies for exploiting people. Next slide, please. Now, all along we thought cybercrimes are just going to be there on networks. But see, now cybercrime stores have started to emerge, just like you have your general stores. Now, cybercrime stores are actually selling access to more than 43,000 hacked servers. That being so, I think cybercrime as a service and cybercrime store are the new toast of the times, because with the increase in the amount of internet penetration across COVID-19, I think it's going to be a fantastically different time altogether. Next slide, please. While we're all sitting on the fence of our house and we're busy looking at Apple and Netflix, I think cyber criminals are bringing their eyes towards Apple and Netflix. Now, these two are intimately trying to be targeted for a variety of cyber crimes, including phishing. I'll also talk about phishing as you go forward, but just to tell you that these two are also being made as a new cybercrime target. Next slide, please. Now, there have been different amount of cases being registered under cyber crimes, specifically in different states for social media posts, with the highest being Maharashtra, which has recorded 366 cases for social media posts on COVID-19. Next slide, please. Cyberbullying started receiving more and more attention and focus. Specifically, as I'm talking to you, we do not have, unfortunately, any particular law relating to cyberbullying. Neither the IT Act addresses cyberbullying as such specifically. Of course, we can call that as an computer-related offense, specifically under Section 66. But however, shall I say, at this minute, we do not have a dedicated provision relating to cyberbullying. Of course, cyber stalking has been covered under Section 354D of the IPC, but that's just confined only to one particular provision. Next slide, please. Cyber harassment has been on the galore. Why? With everybody turning to be joining the digital bandwagon, I think a lot of cyber harassment is happening across the internet domain, and specifically during the social media, with lots of trolls and trolling armies now doing the work. Next slide, please. Now, phishing is nothing but an art of creating look-like pages. So you have these fake pages, shall I say, they're look-likes, and the moment you click on them, they will either collect your data and direct you to the original page, or they will give you some sort of an error. So 99% what happens is they are look-likes. So the moment you look at it, you will have a presumption that it is the original. So, however, I can tell you that there'll be a very minor change. So I would urge you to please look at that in order to stay safe from phishing, whether it's the name or the spelling or the logo, the color, any of them. There'll be a very minor change sometimes, and sometimes, of course, the links are also there, the phishing links. So I would advise you not to share any links, but instead of clicking on the links, please enter the what do you say, URL on the address bar. That is more relatively safer. In the cyber world, nothing can be very secured, 100% secure. We can only be reasonably secured. Next slide, please. Now, when it comes to cyber forensics, I just thought of telling you two things. Cyber forensics, for that matter, any forensics, the main goal or objective is to bring out evidence from any particular devices. So when you talk about computer or digital or cyber forensics, the main goal of cyber forensics is to bring out the evidence from these devices, whether it's your hard disks, whether it's your laptops, whether it's your phones or iPads or computers or your networks or anything, basically. to bring out the evidence basically from this particular material. The cyber forensics is used. Now cyber forensics has got a tremendous scope, and how do you establish a cybercrime evidence in a cybercrime case? I just try to tell you one thing. When you look at this picture, I'll tell you something. Can you magnify the picture by chance? And is there a possibility? So what happens is the IT Act has given you two things. It has gone ahead and told that, yeah, please go down a bit, just scroll down a bit. Yeah. So the fundamental golden rule in cyber forensics is never ever work on the original. Why? Because sometimes, or most of the times, they may be wiping away of the evidence accidentally or inadvertently, but that will lead to destruction of evidence. So the first thing that an investigation officer does with regard to cyber forensics is he makes a copy of the entire log or of the entire device. That is called imaging. The copy is called the image, and the process is called imaging. So the moment I'm trying to do that, how do I establish that the original and the copy are the same? For this particular purpose, the IT Act has gone ahead and told, okay, if you're making use of cyber forensics, if you're making use of doing this particular imaging, you need to ensure that you collect hash value. So hash value is a standard basically that is used to actually talk about the it's something like shall I say your fingerprint or a fingerprint in the digital world, shall I say. That's a classic example that I can tell you. So what happens is the original hard disk or the original device's hash value is calculated, and then the copied copy hash value is collected, and both of them should be the same. Only then it is legally acceptable. So for making use of that, there is a particular standard. So how do you collect hash value? There are lots of applications. Of course, the IT law is not, the IT Act is silent on the kinds of tools. But of course, I can tell you that there are lots of tools being developed even by this organization called CDAC, which is Center Development for Advanced Computing. Specifically, they have a forensic lab in Trivandrum, specifically. And then I can tell you that this particular organization has now been researching and has now come up with some tools. So it is impossible to derive what is there from this input output. So I'll tell you, for example, look at this. If you're able to see the screen, there are three things. Suppose I make use of one particular statement. I want to get the hash value. Even if a small thing, that is the spacing between or basically the value, it's entirely different altogether. So likewise, for any particular data, I can collect the hash value. The hash value is very unique, and then it's completely different. Even if I change a small attribute, for example, I add more space or I put them as capital letter or small letter, the entire output changes. I cannot derive the input from the output, but however, I can tell you that yes, the hash value can be computed. So what kind of hash value standard should I use? The IT Act is clear. It's earlier told MD5, but now it has come up with two more things called SHA1, SHA2. SHA stands for Secured Hash Algorithm 1, and SHA2 stands for Secured Hash Algorithm 2. So these are the two hash value standards that the IT Act now provides in case you want to make a calculation of evidence in any cybercrime related issue. So when I'm putting up any material as a digital evidence, I need to ensure that in my investigation, especially the investigation authority, while doing the forensic examination, will first produce the hash value of the original and would calculate that in the SHA1 or SHA2, then produce the copied imaged copy of the original, and then put up the hash value in the report. And only if both of them are matching, the court would first legally treat that as admissible investigation. That being so, this is how the forensics is also playing an important role in cyber law, because IT Act and IT Act was the one which has actually given up the forensic standard for doing not forensic standard exactly, but the hash value standard, shall I say? Yes, the process is also very simple with regard to cyber forensics, though there is no specific standard laid down by the Indian IT Act. But however, I can tell you that a simple concept of identifying it. So I'll tell you this case. You can relate to that very easily. Suppose, let's say you're all aware of the food adulteration and then the food health department, right? Okay, so let's say that you go to a restaurant, you order for biryani, and then you find that the biryani is spoiled. Now, what do? You raise a complaint with the food department, saying that these guys are now trying to sell spoiled food. So, what does the food department do? They come here, they first identify the food sample, then they collect it, and then they analyze it, then they prepare a report and then submit it to the court. So, likewise, shall I say, the first step is identification, procurement, analysis, reporting, and finally, shall I say, submitting that report to the court of law. So this is the usual process being adopted in cyber forensics while doing the investigation. Next slide, please. Now, the fundamental question that we are all into: what is cyber law? Okay, most of us think that cyber law is something relating only to cyber crimes and nothing. So I'll say that that's a thorough misconception that you are living in. Next slide, please. So like I told you, the moment you're using computers, computer systems, computer resources, computer networks, communication devices, as also data or information in the electronic form, cyber law is going to be made applicable. The main objective of cyber law is not to punish cyber crimes. Next slide, please. So typically, I can tell you in a nutshell that cyber law is the law relating to computers, internet, information technology, cyberspace, mobile applications, websites, and the like. Next slide, please. So in India, like I told you, we have the Indian Information Technology Act 2000, the IT Amended Act 2008, IT Rules 2011, and various rules and regulations made thereunder. So these are the Indian cyber law, shall I say. Next slide, please. So the fundamental idea behind the law is just to promote e-governance, to encourage e-commerce, and also give legal recognition to electronic transactions or electronic records and electronic contracts. So cybercrime, the word cybercrime can never be found in the IT Act. So it's not a penal statute, just like your IPC. The fundamental idea behind Information Technology Act is to give legal recognition to electronic transactions and electronic records, electronic governance, as also electronic commerce. It's an enabling statute. Next slide, please. So anything that you do using a computer, a mobile phone, or any computer resource, any data, whether it's a Word document, or whether it's a presentation, whether it's a PDF, whether it's an email, whether it's a photograph or a video or a text, or an ebook, anything is an electronic record, thanks to Section 21T of the IT Act, as also Section 4 of the IT Act. So that being so, anything that is electronic record would be legally accepted as evidence also under the evidence law, and is also legally accepted under Section 4 of the Information Technology Act. Next slide, please. Now, looking at the word computer, I want to tell about some concepts and make it in a very simple and nutshell manner. So the word computer, don't look at the definition on your screen. I just want to tell you three things. The age-old definition that we are all conversant of during our school times. What's a computer? Typically three things: something that has an arithmetical logical unit, something that has a memory, something that has computational capability. So if these three things are there, it's called a computer. So in that sense, I can tell you that even a washing machine is a computer. Why? Because it has a memory. It can understand your functions. and you can control it, and as per it acts according to your instructions. If you say rinse, it will rinse. If you say wash, it will wash. Likewise, it has an automatic fuzzy logic memory which is there, which operates, and it also has the computing capacity. That being so, your washing machine is a computer, your microwave oven is a computer, your smart TV is a computer, your Wi-Fi printer is also a computer. So that being so, in case your domestic servant meddles with your washing machine such that the normal function of the washing machine is disturbed, she has also committed a cyber crime. So this is what I wanted to instill in you. Next slide, please. Now, the communication device, the Information Technology Act has been amended in 2008, and it has added something called communication device. So what does it mean? It means that any device that is capable of transmitting, receiving, storing audio, video, image, or text. So that being so, your mobile is a communication device. Your iPad, which is not capable of calling, is a communication device. Your tablet, your personal digital assistant, all these are communication devices. And anything that you do using this is also now going to be covered under the ambit of Information Technology Act. Next slide, please. I would want to talk to you about something called public key infrastructure. So I'll tell you. So all of us know that physically, when I create a document, in order to validate it, what should I do? I need to put it on a stamp paper. I need to affix my signature. So that's when I can tell the document is duly signed. Now, when it comes to electronic records, as I was telling you, how do you ensure that the electronic record is authenticated? One of the methods that the IT Act has come up is by making use of digital signature or an electronic signature. So what do you mean by digital signature? Digital signature doesn't mean scanned copy of your signature. That is not what digital signature is. Digital signature is something which is given to you in a USB token, just like you have a pen drive, and it's a mathematical computation of digits. So when you affix your digital signature, you digitally sign it. There is a unique code that is actually coming up. That code is actually given to a particular individual. That's why we have something called digital signature certificate, which means that a certificate telling that this particular number has been allocated to this particular individual. This is called a digital signature certificate. And who is the authority to issue it? We have somebody called certifying authority. There are 7 certifying authorities in India. All these are controlled by a controller who is called a CCA, controller or certifying authority. All their powers, their appointments are leveraged under the IT Act, basically. So when you want to use a digital signature, you can purchase it from the respective certifying authority, one of them being TCS. You can go online and purchase it. And also that if you, in case you want to file your income tax returns, you will also be required to affix your digital signature beyond a particular set of threshold limit. Not just that, a lot of companies also make use of digital signed emails. So they have a digital signature. And then it works on the concept of public key infrastructure. So I'll tell you, there are 2 keys, public key and the private key. The public key is known to the public. The private key is only known to me. So if I were to tell this to you in a simple sense, I'll tell you, how many of us have seen some movies earlier? If you look at the regional movies, especially movies which had this mafia, dons, and all these things, we can clearly relate to it. Earlier, what happened in mafia deals? A 100 rupee note will be cut into 2 parts. One part will remain with one party, the other part will remain with the other party, or they'll have one code word. When both of them come together, they'll exchange this code word, or they'll exchange this note. Only if both of them are matching, they exchange the deal. Likewise, there's a public key, there's a private key. Once they're joined and then they're validated, only thing the document stands validated. It is very content specific. So unlike the physical signature, I cannot say, do you make use of the difference saying I never knew the content. So in the physical documents, I can tell I was not aware of the content, but this is very content specific. So digital signature largely makes use of public key and private key, which is called asymmetric crypto system. So the IT Act under Section 4 specifically talks about how a document can be validated. How? By using an electronic signature or a digital signature. Electronic signature is nothing but you have something called e-sign. You have biometrics, and then Aadhaar based signatures and things like that. So they are called e-signs basically. So you can affix your e-sign or digital signature while you're actually authenticating an electronic record or a document. Next slide, please. Now earlier we were all talking about contracts, but now thanks to the Information Technology Act, e-contracts have been given legal validity, specifically under Section 10A of the Information Technology Act. So how do you have e-contracts? E-contracts basically are in three forms: click wrap, shrink wrap, and browse wrap. Click is when you say I agree. Shrink, when you purchase a particular software from outside the market, that is an antivirus or an operating system. Back of them, you have terms and conditions. The very fact that you have purchased it signify your acceptance. So browse wrap, when you look at the various terms and conditions on various websites or mobile applications, they're called browse wraps. Digital and electronic signatures are now being used by a lot of companies for doing e-contracts. So e-contracts also are going to play a very important role as you go forward. Of course, you cannot. They must satisfy the requirements of a legally enforceable contract under Indian Contract Act, no doubt about it. But however, e-contracts are also now being given legal validity. Next slide, please. So for businesses, there are lots of cyber crimes that are happening across, like phishing, identity thefts. Identity theft is a classic case is fake profile. Somebody is creating a fake profile, then that becomes an identity theft because you're stealing the identity of or unique element of that particular individual, and then you're making use of the same. Ransomware, I already told you. Corporate data theft. Data theft is also now being increasingly done during this period of COVID-19. Intellectual property issues, whether it's copyright, trademarks, trade secrets, or designs. A lot of issues are happening across during this COVID times. Next slide, please. Forgery and forged documents are also receiving a lot of center stage attention during this period of COVID-19, with fake news becoming the new flavor of the times. Confidentiality and privacy are also at stake. A lot of breach of confidentiality and privacy is happening across. Cheating by impersonation, I'll also give you an example as you go forward. Email related crimes, especially from WHO and other organizations, you're receiving a lot of fake circulars and fake emails. So this is also now increasingly happening cyber crimes during this COVID-19. Next slide, please. Online defamation, fake news, cybersecurity breaches, device breaches, BYOD. See, online defamation. Lot of times, most of us think that online defamation is something that is not covered adequately. Yes, it's not covered, but yes, we have Section 499, 500 of IPC, as well as Section 66 of the IT Act, which deal with computer-related offenses. If you're trying to defame somebody using a computer, mobile phone, or the internet, you could be charged under these particular sections. Fake news, as I told you, Section 66, 468, and if you're trying to do anything more, you could also have a multiple amount of sections. Cyber security breaches are receiving a lot of attention nowadays with regard to COVID-19. Whether it's not just the devices, or it's not just the corporate devices, but even your mobile phones, your laptops. There's a lot of breach of cyber security. Device breaches, BYOD. BYOD nothing but bring your own device. A lot of companies have now started using work from home as the new normal. BYOD breaches are also receiving a lot of center stage attention during this period of COVID-19. Next slide, please. Now, phishing, unauthorized access. No, these are some things that are specific to businesses that I thought of sharing with you. Next slide, please. There are three things to secure a system, I believe: what I am, what I have, and what I know. So what I am is my physical self, dynamics of my handwriting, my sound, and then my retina scanning and biometrics and things like that. What I have is the smart card dongle and the ATM card, which can be inserted and removed. What I know ultimately is the PIN number, password, and the passcode. So I think the different combinations of these three systems will make any system as a secured system. Of course, any system is as strong as its weakest link. Next slide, please. So darknet, like I told you, look at it. It's the totally the other side of the internet. The net we access and the darknet. So one of the major important aspects of darknet is it's not publicly accessible. It can be accessed only through a specific browser called Tor browser, and then specifically there are lots of attribution related issues, jurisdictional issues, and evidentiary issues that are happening across darknet. Why? Because you do not have any proof or an evidence that such and such an organization is operating it. And neither, when you search about this particular, let's say you come to know that abc.com is actually indulging in a lot of illegal activities. When you look at abc.com, it says no page found. You cannot get any information about the same in the public search engines. It cannot be accessed through normal browsers. They are using high level of encryptions, and therefore evidentiary attribution, as also the shall I say, the security is on also now being increasingly a very different aspect altogether. Next slide, please. This is already covered. Next slide, please. So I got this case where people started asking me, okay, what happens to my social media accounts as I die? Of course, they asked me to prepare a legal will. But today, when you look at the terms and conditions of WhatsApp or Facebook, or for that matter, Twitter, they have come up with clear policies regarding the nominees and the systems. They do not have any nominees like bank accounts. So you'll have to notify them that the person is not actually existing. Next slide, please. Now, Section 43. Now, earlier, the word hacking was covered under Section 66 of the IT Act 2000, but 2008, the hacking term has been removed. It has been widened with the concept of unauthorized access. So, this is a civil provision of the IT Act. So, like I told you, two major provisions relating to civil and criminal. One is Section 43, which is talking about unauthorized access and related contraventions. And 66 to 65 to 75, they talk about the criminal provisions of cyber crimes. So this is a cyber contravention, which is civil in nature. Civil always is damages by way of compensation. So the IT Act 2000 had a cap of 1 crore rupees, but now the cap has been removed away. And now if you suffer unlimited damages can be actually claimed. Now, what are these things? And then what are these contraventions? Yes, contraventions are simple violations. Offenses are serious violations. The offenses are crimes, criminal in nature. Contraventions are civil in nature. Next slide, please. You do any of these things, you could be you could now indulge yourself into a cyber contravention, and the damages are there up to 5 crore rupees per contravention. You access a secure access, you download, copy, extract data without the permission, you introduce a computer contaminant. You're introducing a computer contaminant. I want to tell you one thing. In case you are sharing out a document which has been passed by somebody, you're just forwarding as received. Lo and behold, if you don't do your due diligence, as a result, the document your shared has virus in it, you will be considered as a person who introduced the computer contaminant, because it has come up through your email. So that's a very interesting question. Damage the computer, physical as well as the working of the computer, disrupt the computer, causing denial of access. That means you deny the access, provide assistance to facilitate illegal access if you're taking Wi-Fi of someone else, charging the services being availed by one person. That's also the same. Destroying the value utility of the computer document or affecting it injuriously. Stealing the source code. I will not be touching much on the source code, but just to tell you that source code is something like a heart of a program. Basically, it's a list of commands, instructions, and the like. But just to tell you that yes, these are the different kinds of cyber contraventions under Section 43. Next slide, please. If you're using a stolen mobile or a computer resource, you will not be accused just for stealing, but you'll also be accused under data theft. So look at this. You could also be facing charges under 66B. Next slide, please. Identity theft, 66C, which I already told you, if you're creating a fake profile of somebody, you're taking away their unique identifying element and using that, yes, that means you've stolen their identity. So that is covered under Section 66C. Now go a bit further, not just creating a fake profile, but if you're trying to populate messages from that fake profile, using that fake profile, you will now be accused not just of identity theft, but you'll also be accused of cheating by impersonation. Go to the next slide, please. Which is called, you're impersonating as if you're that particular respective person. So it's called cheating by impersonation. So you'll not be just covered under Section 66, but also 66D, specifically Section 415 and 416 of the IPC. Next slide, please. Now, violation of personal privacy is also going to play a very, very important role when you're uploading videos on the social media. If you're exposing the private parts of an individual without their permission, or breaching their privacy, yes, you would be doing a personal breach of personal privacy, shall I say. That's called voyeurism. Next slide, please. Now, Computer Emergency Response Team is the nodal agency for cybersecurity. It is established under Section 70B of the IT Act. It is a nodal agency responsible for maintaining cybersecurity in India. So certain issues are regular advisories on the various kinds of cyber crimes. It gives you certain advices. It also gives you the regular updates. So I would urge you that please, as a layman, also log on to certain and then look at the various notifications issued by them. Next slide, please. So intermediary, the concept of intermediary is now the new game changer in the Information Technology Act. I'll just tell you these things in a nutshell because I don't have much of a time. Just to tell you something in a nutshell, that this is also one of the good areas that you as a young lawyer can actually focus on. It's called the intermediary guidelines. So who's an intermediary? All along, I thought intermediary is only my ISP or my network service provider. That's a thorough misconception. Thanks to Section 21W of the IT Act. Next slide, please, quickly. So the intermediary is defined under Section 21W of the IT Act, which says any person who, on behalf of another person's, either receives, stores, or transmits any particular electronic records or provides any service with respect to that record. So I can tell you any website, any mobile application is an intermediary. Why? It is collecting information, it is giving me service. So that being so, look at the scope of cyber law. So any particular website, any particular mobile phone. So once it's an intermediary, they have to comply with the intermediary guidelines. The intermediary guidelines talk about two things. One thing, they give you 36 hours as the takedown period for in case they receive any notification that some data is actually what do you say, objectionable. They will have to block access within 36 hours. That is one thing. And also there is a data protection legal compliance being given under IT Act, specifically under IT Rules 2011, read along with Section 43A. Go to the next slide, please. Next slide. This is the take no notice I was trying to tell you, 36 hours. Next slide, please. Now, law has come up with something called sensitive personal data or information. Passwords, financial information, biometrics, sexual orientation, your gender related information, health and medical records, or any information required under lawful contract is called a sensitive personal data or information. So the moment anybody, any company or any association, any individual who's collecting, processing, storing, dealing, or handling with this sensitive personal data or information, or also personal information. We have something called personal information also. Next slide, please. Exception is any information under RTI, Right to Information Act, is not considered to be sensitive information. Next slide, please. So we have something called personal information also. Any information with which I can identify an individual, his name, his email ID, phone number, his passport, Aadhaar card, driving license, credit card, all of these also are his personal information. So any company who is dealing with processing, handling, or transmitting personal and sensitive information has to be compliant with the IT Act, as also the IT rules and regulations made thereunder. So this is one of the very good aspects that you could look at, which is called cyber law compliance. Next slide, please. And what does it do? It asks you to do three things. Either you can have ISO 27001 standards. Apart from that, there are 40 odd parameters which are laid under IT rules. So that and this can be one combination. Second, if you have your own practices, you'll have to get them notified by a nodal agency. Third, then the easiest form is have a data protection agreement. So this could be one of the very good areas that you as young lawyers and young law students can look at as a career option, which enables you to become a cyber law compliance auditor and then do cyber law compliance audit, specifically create these agreements, create these policies. So fundamentally, I'll tell you that every company, whether it's a mobile application or whether it's a website or it's a platform or whether it's a IT or non-IT, in case they're making use of sensitive personal data or information or personal information, or they're an intermediary, there has to be four golden guidelines. One, privacy policy. Two, terms and conditions. Three, grievance mechanism. Four, a data protection agreement. If these four are there, they are complying. Otherwise, they could expose themselves to two kinds of liabilities. One is civil, one is criminal. Next slide, please. So exercise your due diligence. Do not partner with somebody who's violating the law. As also, it is clear that comply with the law. If these three things are done, any company is safe. Or else they get exposed to two kinds of liabilities. They could be exposed to civil and criminal liabilities. Next slide, please. So civil could be by way of compensation up to 5 crore rupees. So 20 crores approximately could be on an average. This is up to that they could be sued for, because there are four requirements. Criminal liabilities, of course, 3 years to imprisonment, and fine ranging from 1 lakh rupees to 10 lakh rupees. This is the kinds of exposures to legal liabilities in case they don't comply. And roughly, I can tell you that out of, if you look at an average of 100 applications, only 95% of them are not non-compliant. So that gives you immense scope of going into this direction. Not just that, there's also section 45 which talks about residuary penalty, which is also going to be applicable in case you don't comply with the IT Act. So of course the penalty is only up to 25,000 rupees, but still this is something that could be made applicable for in case you're not complying to the parameters of IT Act. Next slide, please. So who's liable? It's not just the company being the legal person. The top management, middle management, each and every employee who's responsible for this particular data, or sensitive personal data or information or personal data, would be individually liable. So that is a kind of legal exposure. I just thought of bringing forth this because you can look at this as a wonderful career option, because by and large, it's only the favorite three keys that are happening across the corporate domain: Control C, Control V, and Control A. So I'll say that these are the three favorite keys of the corporate world. Everybody is doing a cut, copy, paste of these policies. But however, shall I say is that the IT rules 2011 have come up specifically with what should be the necessities of privacy policy, what should be required under grievance mechanism, and what should be the due diligence under rule number 8. So I think if you can focus on these, this could be one of the very good career options that you could go use as you go forward. Next slide, please. So likewise, there's also criminal penalty under section 72, breach of confidentiality, as also under 72A. Next slide, please. These are three cases, but I'll just quickly tell you one thing. The gist of all these three cases are companies were facing legal issues because they were not complying to the parameters laid down under the IT Act and the rules and regulations made there under. Whether it's the bank, whether it's the organization called Bazi, which is now being called as eBay. Everybody had to face huge amounts of penalties, civil as well as criminal punishments, as a result of breach or committed by their employees during the course of their employment, more specifically since they did not comply with the parameters of the IT Act and the rules and regulations made thereunder. Next slide, please. So you have the adjudicating authorities. Now you'll say, are there any special courts relating to cyber laws? Yes, the IT Act has given a first step into this called adjudicating officer. So up to 5 crore rupees, in case I told you about the section 43, which is civil provision. So IT Secretary of the State is called the adjudicating officer under section 46 of the IT Act, and he's been given the powers of a civil court, and he can adjudicate matters laid down under section 43, and specifically which are less than the pecuniary value of 5 crores Indian rupees. Not just that, in case you're aggrieved with the order of the adjudicating officer, you can go to the Cyber Appellate Regulatory Tribunal in Delhi, which has the appellate jurisdiction. You cannot directly approach it. You can only go against an appeal. And then likewise, you can also approach a civil court or a high court for that matter for filing cybercrime cases. So these are the different kinds of authorities under the IT Act for cyber crimes, and the qualifications and the appointment and the details have been of the adjudicating officer as also the presiding officer of the cyber appellate tribunal have also been mentioned under section 46 as also 52 of the IT Act 2000. Next slide, please. Digital footprint. Digital footprint is a wonderful mechanism that is used by the cybercrime investigators to track down cyber criminals. It's not your stamp on the computer or your laptop or your device. Just go to the next slide. Any activities that you're doing on your computer, on your mobile phone, becomes your digital footprint. Yes, look at this. You use your devices for a variety of activities, and all of these activities together constitute your digital footprint. By using this, a cyber criminal can hack and get into your system. By using this, a police can track down a cyber criminal. So these is going to be, shall I say, the most key element in terms of cybercrime investigation and cyber forensic investigation. Next slide, please. So India had something called National Cyber Security Policy in 2013. Of course, it's implemented. It's like a paper tiger, not much of an implementation. But I can tell you that we are trying to revisit this policy, and we can see a new cyber security policy either this year or next year maximum. Next slide, please. Cyber insurance also started to receive a lot of attention nowadays, with every business trying to make use of digital environment and digital bandwagon. Cyber insurance is also being offered at by different players, and then they are making use of two parameters to lay down that. One is internal control failure or external attack. So these are the two parameters that cyber insurance companies are looking at. This is all. This is also no. This is no longer in the horizon. It was there in the Western countries, but a lot of Indian insurance companies are also looking at cyber insurance. So if you are interested in that, that also could be one of the good career options that you could actually look at. Next slide, please. So HDFC, Ego, Bajaj Allianz, and a lot of other companies are also now coming up increasingly with cyber insurance. Next slide, please. This is what I was just talking to you about. And as a cyber lawyer or as a cyber law enthusiast, one of the very good scopes that you have in cyber insurance is talk about the data protection, the privacy practices, as also the data protection agreements and the compliance requirements. There's a lot of work to do in this area as well. Next slide, please. So some cyber security measures that I thought of just sharing with you: do not click on any links, do not compromise on your mobile or device security. Please use antivirus applications and update them. That's very important. And then maintain cyber ethics while you're actually trying to make use of these applications, chat applications. Sanitize your pictures, and then do not share, disseminate, or transmit fake news. Next slide, please. And all I wish to tell you is the culture of cybersecurity has to be adopted, and due diligence is the new mantra given this present scenario. I think we are all in this stage of a voyage. By the time we are victorious against coronavirus, we are all going to see a completely different world, which is the new cyber world, and there's likely to emerge a new cyber world order, which is going to throw up a lot of emerging cyber legal principles, shall I say. So this is the new tip of the iceberg, shall I say? And then I'll tell you that I can tell you that there are three trinity of sisters that are very, very popular in this COVID times. One is increasing cyber crimes. Second is increasing in cyber security breaches, as also the fake news. So I'll tell you that you cannot close your eyes to the sun and say the sun has gone away. So likewise, you cannot close your eyes to cyber laws and cyber security. As an individual, as a cyber law enthusiast, and as a cyber law lawyer, I would tell you that cyber law and cyber security are now going to be your lifelong companions, whether you like it or not, good, bad, or worse. So I would tell you that it's going to be a different ball game altogether. And as I see, there's going to be a huge, big wave of cyber law, cyber security law, and legal litigations as you go forward. Next slide, please. So cyber resilience is now the big time aspect being looked out by a lot of companies. How quickly can you come back to normalcy in case you're hit with a cyber attack? This is what is the cyber resilience all about. So a lot of companies are now trying to come up with cyber resilient plans. I think this also is one of the areas that you could actually focus on as a cyber lawyer. So that being so, the focal trust has to be laid on cyber law and cyber security, because you cannot weather the storm without these. And of course, the message is loud and clear that the cybercrime is here to stay. And then the cyber criminals are going to be laughing their ways constantly to our banks, no matter whatever be your profession. I think these are the new manifestations that are happening across. Next slide, please. I thought of just sharing with you some funny images, so that I thought of just putting some conclusive learnings as you go forward. Next slide, please. So this is not what it seems to be on the social media. So I mean, if you're thinking that yes, there could be a lot of online frauds, online cheating by impersonations, and things like that are happening. It's not what it seems like. Next slide, please. So this is what is happening across chat rooms. So I'm sure that people will be able to agree with me, because you're still living in this age of the internet, where completely anything and everything is uh, a different phenomenon altogether. So you have to come out of your deep waters, come out of the shell, and then you cannot take everything on the face value of it. Next slide, please. So this is an interesting password change. So that's got to be there. So I think yes, but a lot of us now getting trusting our daily lives with internet connected devices. I think passwords would have to be increasingly and very intelligently be made use of. Next slide, please. So Facebook is impacting newborn babies also. Earlier we used to say born with a silver spoon, but now you can say it's born with a silver iPad. Shall I say that's the new toast of the times? And not just that. The other day I was just looking at an interesting scenario, an interesting video. A small baby who is about 9 months old, and then the baby was actually given an iPad by their parents. So she had the habit of enlarging every photograph that was there on the iPad, and she was given a physical book, and she started enlarging the picture. But however, the picture wasn't magnifying. I think this is the way how technology is impacting newborn babies as well. Next slide, please. So two ways of learning anything, active and passive. Of course, we do have to make a choice. Next slide, please. Size doesn't matter. So you cannot be under the presumption that I'm just a normal law student, or I'm a normal person, I'm a normal individual. How does cybercrime affect me? That's a great misconception. So there is a lot of dragnet that is waiting to entrap you, and if you don't be intelligent, you could just become a victim to cybercrime. Next slide, please. So I think Facebook addiction, it's even more dangerous than drugs, because drugs you have rehabs, and then with a lot of things that are happening across Facebook, and shall I say it's a completely different ballgame altogether. But a lot of people joining the new digital bandwagon, I think it's the way to the future. These are two interesting quotes that I thought of sharing with you. Facebook would pay me for every time. It could go bankrupt and we could be the richest people. And it's the only place we repost on the wall, right? Physically, you do that, you're pulled away because this guy is mentally unsound. Please pull him off. Anybody talks to the wall in the physical sense, that's what we do, right? Next slide, please. Internet medicine, telemedicine is now receiving the new big haul forward. But I can also tell you that a lot of us are trying to do this when it comes to actually diagnosing COVID symptoms. I just want to tell you that do not gauge the internet for symptoms, and do not worry yourself. I think internet is just something that's going to only give up some suggestions, but you cannot take that as a decision maker, specifically with regard to the COVID and the present scenarios. Next slide, please. I think with a lot of hospitals also going digital, I think this is going to be the way how they're going to treat patients. Next slide, please. Of course, I don't have any kinds of discrimination. I may be excused for that. I'm just trying to tell you that the cybercrime and challenges of cybercrimes are not just to law enforcement agencies, but they're also to individuals as also cyber lawyers. Why? It is very very hard. You only realize that you've been hit with a cybercrime once you face the damages. Till then you never even know that you're actually being targeted. That's the beauty. It's not something like you have in the physical world. I can identify the cyber criminal because of his appearance and physique and things like that. But cyber criminal, the identification is going to be a very very big challenge. Next slide, please. So Gordon FP, I think already cheating by impersonation has started, and then also identity theft has already also begun. Next slide, please. Yeah, a lot of us are trying to do these kinds of status updates on Facebook and WhatsApp with the COVID times. I think let's not do that. Let's not live in an attention-seeking syndrome related issues, because a lot of times that we live a digital life rather than a physical life. Next slide, please. So I think if the COVID-19 continues during the Diwali times, I can tell you that this is the way how we'll try to burst crackers. Next slide, please. I'm sure this is you really appreciate the way how we're trying to go ahead. Next slide, please. Digital footprint, I already gave you an idea of. Next slide, please. I think yes, the stated updates are now being the crazy times during this COVID-19 period. Next slide, please. So what is necessary is only what is required. So I thought of just sharing across some of these aspects. I know with the limited amount of time that we had, I have touched on a lot of concepts that have gone beyond your paradigm. But I can tell you that expanding your knowledge during this COVID time is a fantastic option. And when the whole world has come to a grinding halt due to COVID-19, I think we can once again prove that these are this is the new cyber is the new frontier to go and conquer. I think that's something that I thought of sharing with you. And once again, I'll just tell you one thing before I conclude, that IT Act is a very, very special law. While we are given the special aura and status to IT Act, supplementing with other laws, well, a lot of work also needs to be done with regard to coming up with the amendments relating to the new technologies. Not just that, the IT Act represents a Bollywood movie kind of an approach. Why? If you look at a typical Bollywood movie, there's a lot of masala, there's romance, there's action, there is drama, and there is emotion, there's suspense. Likewise, the IT Act has something on cyber laws, cyber crimes, something on e-contracts, something on cryptography, something on the adjudication, something on civil, criminal, and something also on digital signatures and electronic signatures. And likewise, shall I tell you, the password is like a toothbrush. I am sure that you change your toothbrush, you don't share it with anyone, and you choose a good one. Next slide, please. So no offense to women or anybody here, but just like to tell you that yes, this is what is happening across. Next slide, please. So I'm sure since you guys are not married, and then of course if you have girlfriends, I think you'll be able to relate to this very quickly. No offense to women or anybody here, just to make things in a lighter way. Next slide, please. Cyber warfare has also now become the new critical warfare. It's more dangerous than nuclear war, because there you had at least nuclear non-proliferation treaty. But globally, you don't have anything on cyber warfare nor an international cyber legal conventions. Next slide, please. So evolution of life, as you all know, we are now in the second stage, the IT Act 2008. We're waiting for the third stage to come. And let's see, like the evolution of life, the IT Act also needs to be evolving as time passes by. Next slide, please. Usually the paradox of law is law evolves, modulates, and adapts. But here, we'll have to evolve, adapt, and modulate. It's just like cutting the leg to the size of the shoe. Why? Because we're thoroughly unprepared. Today, this evening, if you have some kind of a restriction, let's say we can maintain social distancing, but we cannot maintain, let me tell you, social media distancing. That's going to be the biggest punishment in the present times. You have a problem, face it. Do not Facebook it. You can get trolled if you Facebook it, and you could also face bullying and harassments, as also other issues. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is a very interesting scenario. JAR is something called a Java program. So the technology dependence is in such a way. So the lady says open the jar, but this guy says go and install Java. This is the way how we are dependent on technology. Next slide, please. So computers have changed all of our lives. I'm sure during the COVID times, we could see a lot of things moving around. Next slide, please. So be watchful. Do not share everything like this, because you're doing that. I'm telling you, you're opening up invitation to disaster. Next slide, please. Never ever give up. So be it whatever be your kind of profession that you're opting out, they could be challenges, they could be issues, but do not give up. Don't give up cyber law, cyber security, as also your confidence. This is how we follow rules. Person sitting in front should wear a helmet. Next slide. This is the acuity and acumen with which you have to approach the subject of cyber law. See, when you're cutting onions, obviously tears roll down your eyes. Look at the strategical approach. So don't be under the presumption that cyber law is only for techies. It's not. It's the thorough misconception. I think now with a lot of electronic evidence coming into picture, I think it's going to be the long way forward as you go forward. This is a famous T-shirt for car drivers. You don't get caught for wearing a seat belt. Why do we wear a seat belt? Just to for our safety. Is that the truth? No, the truth is we wear seat belt and helmet just to protect ourselves from paying fine to the next policeman. That culture has to change. I think that is the only goal of my presentation. Thank you so much once again. Next slide, please. Create happiness if you cannot find it. That's the only mantra, shall I say, during this COVID times. So I am of the opinion that we're all going out in rain or storm. It's advisable that we carry a raincoat or an umbrella, and then that's the umbrella of cyber law and cyber security. I think this is the key message that I wish to tell you. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is already done. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen and students. It's been a wonderful time talking to you this evening. I thank Lawyergenics specifically for this wonderful opportunity, and also Karthik, who has been moderating this session, as also Anand, who had actually interacted with me initially. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure talking to you this evening.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. It was a really informative session. So before we wind up this session, we have a couple of questions left. So participant, now the floor is open for questions. So you can just pin your question in the chat box. So we have a couple of questions lying. First, sir, we'll starting with, okay, Siftian, sir, what about the jurisdiction?
Hello.
Hello, sir. Can you hear the question?
Yeah. Please repeat it. I was not able to follow the question.
Yeah,
Please.
yeah. Okay. So the question is, sir, what do you think about jurisdiction problem caused by anonymous cyber attackers, and what do you think about the international law can take part to deal with cyber war?
It's a wonderful question. We already have a jurisdiction, an extraterritorial jurisdiction provision under IT Act, specifically Section 1, Subsection 2, and Section 75, which say that any person, irrespective of any nationality, in case he's affecting a computer system, computer network, or a communication device physically located in India, he could be tried under the Indian law. But unfortunately, all the countries do not have any kinds of treaties or conventions in this regard, and then that is one of the gray areas, shall I say, of relating to jurisdiction. But I don't see any reason why the police should not book any of these platforms in case they're facilitating any of these cyber crimes as co-accused. But our police are not been registering cases. But I think internationally also some countries are following this concept of MLAT, which is called Mutual Legal Assistance Treaty. While countries are not waiting for it, but I think international law also has to be coming up, specifically relating to cyber law. We don't have a uniform or harmonious common international cyber law. I think there's also a requirement for coming up with some basic parameters relating to this. So otherwise, yes, there's no reason why these platforms should not be booked, because we have these two already mentioned under our IT Act. But it's going to be a very gray area, because jurisdiction aspect, specifically thanks to the internet making geography as history, that's going to be a wonderful area that has to be still further explored with regard to jurisdiction.
Yeah, thank you for your answer, sir. We have another question from Lakshmi. She's asking that, sir, as in this session, you said government ordered courts to not to take cases if the subject matter is regarding banning their apps. Under which law the government has such rights to issue such directions?
Specifically under Section 69 of the IT Act, which gives the government unlimited power to exercise their use power with regard to blocking, interception, monitoring, disabling of public access with regard to any application, whether it's through a computer or a mobile phone or the internet, which is trying to threaten the integrity, sovereignty of India. So it's under that particular provision that the government has actually used that power to block, and using that power, it has actually informed the court.
Yes, sir. So another question we have regarding the cyber hygiene. So the question is, how do we maintain cyber hygiene? So if you can just
The
enlighten upon.
I'll just tell you four things basically. First thing is that do not click on unsolicited links, because nobody is going to send you any kinds of links. And second thing is that we maintain same passwords or almost similar passwords for multiple applications. That's not that. And not just that, I would advise you to have a password or a security mechanism for some applications also, like WhatsApp or any other application. Third, do not download apps which are not necessary. Please look at the permissions of the apps while downloading it. Fourth thing, please download antivirus, anti-malware, anti-spyware tools on your applications, including your mobiles, and please keep updating them. See, it's not here for a lifetime. You need to constantly keep updating them. I think if you're doing these four things, you could be reasonably you could maintain reasonable cyber hygiene. Then do not share out too
Yes.
much of information about yourself on the social media. That's also one thing that I would like to tell you.
Yes, sir, definitely. So before we close the session, just last question. The question is, how can we prevent hackers from social media? Like, how can we prevent our accounts
See that
from being hacking or phishing
that is a
attacks?
very tricky question, because see there is no golden principle or magical answer to this question, because we are all living in a world which is reasonably secured, but not 100% secured for that matter. But all I can tell you, if you are able to maintain some basic security mechanisms on your profile, like you have every social media application gives you an option. See, you can keep yourself your profile locked in Facebook. You can increase the security settings. You can actually put up very little information about you. You can remove your photographs and disable them with regard to outsiders. And then likewise, you only not share out personal information which is not required much. I think if you can basically able to do that, and do not access Facebook using any third party applications, and do not see, sometimes what happens is, if you're getting access to some websites, they'll say that if you have a Facebook account, you can log in through the Facebook account. Do not use that, because the moment you do that, you do not have any idea how those links could be potentially targeting your profile. So that's also some advice to me. And do not click on any links of social media and open it. If you want to access Facebook through a computer, please log on to www.facebook.com. Type it manually. It's going to be painful, but that's better than getting yourself into a cyber attack. And more specifically, when you are accessing it, please look at the domain name properly. See if the spellings are correct. Sometimes FACE, right? C may have a dash at the top, E may have a dash at the top, the book spelling may be wrong, the logo may seem wrong, there may be some errors. So please be cautious and due diligent when you are actually exercising these social media applications. I think these are ways to prevent and secure your profiles from hackers. But I can tell you that these are just illustrative and cannot be exhaustive. So long as you're safe, I think you're absolutely safe. But so long as you might also be hit, we would not have any idea how we can be hit. We're only trying to be prepared in case we're hit, that yes, we reasonably have something to go ahead. That's all I can tell you that with regard to the safety.
Yes, sir, definitely. So, thank you, sir. With this, we will conclude our session. And I extend my warm thanks to all the participants for joining us and tuning in with us today. And for all the queries regarding the PowerPoint presentation and all the queries which were unanswered, kindly send us some email regarding the same. We'll try to answer all the queries because we are short of time, so we cannot take every questions. And thank you so much, sir. I think you have covered a lot of aspect and all the major aspects. So, firstly, I would like to extend my thanks to you for spending your time with us and joining us today with your busy schedule. And participant, I must tell you that it's raining badly in Hyderabad, and sir is not able to switch on his video also. But still, he tried to give us such a wonderful insight. So, on the behalf of Lawyergenics, I extend my heartiest thanks to you for joining us with today. And also, I
Thank
would
you so
like to
much. It's
thank
been a
Anand
pleasure.
Divedi. Yeah, thank you, sir. And also, I would like to thank Anand Dwivedi, the founder CEO. He has done extreme hard work, like making this webinar a huge success. And Manav and Priyal, who were behind the PPT sharing and all the marketing board. So, thank you, panelists, and thank you to all the participants. Hope you have a great evening. Stay home, stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you.